I shall begin the State of the University address. Well, what a year it has been. This is an experience I very often have at Signum, when I think back to a year ago and where things were a year ago, and I'm like, holy cow, it's amazing to think about everything that's happened at Signum in the last year. I mean, a year ago now, we had only just barely launched our Signum Path program. Signum Academy clubs, we hadn't even thought of it yet. It wasn't even a glimmer in our eye at this point. It was close. It was going to start glimmering a couple weeks from a year ago today. But it was, in the year since then, that program was conceived and launched. Financially, we had an amazing year. And let me just start with that. That seems a really good place to start, an appropriate place to start at the end of our fundraising campaign. So let me show you some fun numbers from Signum's financial year in review. This is a chart of our total revenue, graph of our total revenue over the last 3 years, and then our projections for this year. And as you can see, we've been growing by leaps and bounds over the course of the last few years, because this is largely, this is due in part to some internal growth. We did have some really excellent growth in our graduate program. During the pandemic, we got a pretty big bump during the pandemic. Interestingly, we've gotten some new students, completely new students during the pandemic, but that's actually not where the majority of our new enrollment has come from. The majority of our new enrollment has come from the fact that since the pandemic began, the average number of courses that our students are taking at a time has increased dramatically, right? So it was less about, tons of new people finding us and more about people being stuck in their houses and having more time to do stuff like take Signum courses. Anyway, that was really fun. And of course we've been, adding new programs and diversifying things, and that also has a big impact on things. But here's another thing that had a big impact that made a significant contribution to our jump in revenue, and that was our jump in fundraising. This is our annual fund. Over the last 3 years, we raised just shy of $64,000 in fiscal year 20. That is the fiscal year that ended in August of 2020. But last year, the fiscal year that just ended, July 31st of this year in 2021, we raised $88,170. It's a huge jump from last year, just enormous. And as you can see, we're doing really, really well. So the dark blue is how much we've raised so far for our annual fund for this year. Our goal is $100,000. What would have felt, years back, an absurd goal to shoot for. But after we hit 88,000 last year, I was confident that we could do it. And we are well ahead of our fundraising for last year. We've raised $73,036 in gifts and pledges. And that's only from August 1st to now. That's of course counting those of you who have monthly donations in place. That's sort of counting the rest of the monthly donations that are scheduled to come during the annual fund. That's what I mean when I say gifts and pledges. But anyway, yeah, we're only $27,000 short of our $100,000 goal. And as I say, we are well ahead of where we were last year this time. We're almost $10,000 ahead of where the annual fund level was at this time last year. So that is pretty amazing. And so, a question, and I talked about this some at the beginning of, at the session I did at the very beginning of our fundraising campaign, which was at the start of our very first Nature and Middle Earth class on Wednesday night in the Mythgard Academy. But it bears repeating because it's the answer to the question, so what do we do with this money anyway, right? We got $88,000 last year. Where does that go exactly? And the answer is it goes to people. All of it goes to pay people. Signum University we do what we do, that is provide excellent, high quality, high student faculty contact education by and lowering our costs, right? The approach of a lot of universities is to try to lower their costs by putting into place a kind of a mechanized online education, right, that students can go through, which is great. It's convenient. They can go through it at their own pace. But of course, it also conveniently doesn't cost the universities anything, or very little anyway. And yet, of course, they usually charge their full, very, very high tuition for it. We not only don't do that, we not only don't charge the ridiculously large tuition fees that most universities charge, but we charge as little as we do. We charge a fraction of what most universities do without reducing the kind of personal contact and personal attention that you get. In fact, we have at least as much, even more than some in-person universities can do. And so what this means is that the majority of our expenses, vast majority, like 90% of our total costs and expenses at the university are people. And that is what I have been focused in pouring more money into. From the beginning, Signum has always paid its faculty members. We've always done that. Our faculty have been paid from day one, but we've had a lot of people who have volunteered as staff. And this has kind of grown over the year. Over the years, there have been many people who have loved the vision of Signum University and wanted to see it succeed and make it happen. So they started helping in various ways and have continued to help, and are, and many of us have been, working towards the day when we can be fully paid, when this can really become the future career for many people, a sustainable, long-term, and comfortable income for folks. And that has been my main goal over the last couple of years. It's been the number one thing that I've been focusing on behind the scenes, is transitioning into a fully paid staff. Let me show you what that has looked like. As you can see, a couple of years ago, fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, that was fairly typical for many years. That's what we had allocated. We were only able to allocate. We only had about between $41,000 and $42,000 a year to allocate to staff. That's like all of our non-MA faculty pay. Like again, we've always paid the MA faculty, but that was what we had, like, for everybody. And last year's fiscal year, we jumped from $41,000 to $132,000 we paid to staff. It was, as you could say, we'd more than tripled the total amount that we paid to non-MA faculty, while still continuing to pay our MA faculty at the same levels that we had been. That was a huge step forward. And as you can see, according to our budget for this year, we're going to increase again very significantly. And this is where your money goes. And it is such a wonderful thing. I just can't even tell you. It is quite literally my favorite part of being the president of Signum University. To me, the greatest reward of becoming an administrator, right? Of running a school instead of just teaching. The greatest reward has been hiring folks. It's just nothing beats hiring people, being able to, because it's just this it's this amazing win-win situation, right? Where you find really good people who do such good work and are such a blessing to the institution, and you get to give them money, right? And be a blessing to them and their family. And so all of the money that you guys give in donations enables us to pay more people. Every dollar that we get, we are giving out in salary to our staff, to the faculty of our new programs and everything. And we're still continuing to pay. In fact, this year, we've actually increased the pay to our MA faculty, while also planning to increase our pay to the rest of our staff as well. So the donations that you make are like a double blessing to Signum, both a direct and an indirect blessing. It's a direct blessing in the sense that it gives us more resources to be able to hire more folks, to be able to do more things, which is just, there's so many places around Signum, as you can well imagine, I'm sure, where we are, kind of scrambling around, like trying to, with a bunch of people trying to cover a whole bunch of different things. We're a startup organization, right? So you can imagine how that goes, like one person wearing 18 hats. And I don't even know, I stopped counting the number of different roles I play in the institution, for instance, and there are several folks like that. But anyway, the point is, it is such a wonderful blessing to our operations to be able to have more money that we can use to hire people and to pay folks and to make those jobs easier. It's a wonderful enrichment of our programs to be able to support them more strongly and more reliably. But at the same time, right, while we're doing that, it's also an indirect blessing, right? Being able to pay that money out to people, to the deserving people, many of whom have been sacrificing to help Signum. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So I am so grateful to everyone who has donated, and just wanted to kind of share with you financially a little bit some of the great things that you guys are making possible as Signum continues to build and to grow. But let us do some updates, because there's a whole bunch of things going on. So the first thing that I wanted to update you guys about is our authorization and accreditation process. So this was a big year. We checked off so we had three major things that we have to do in order to have Signum completely and utterly established in the eyes of all of the authorities. The first was to achieve approval from the state of New Hampshire's Higher Education Commission, be reviewed by them and have our program approved by them. And that we accomplished several years ago. You guys may remember the celebration that we had a couple years ago when that came through. That was a big deal. This past year, one of our big accomplishments was achieving New Hampshire legislative authorization. We had to get a bill passed through the state legislature of the state of New Hampshire, awarding, official sort of state sanction to Signum University by name. So Signum University is now officially written into the laws of the state of New Hampshire. That was process, right? That involved politics, of course. So it was its own thing, right? But that process was completed. And you may remember relatively recently, in July, when our bill was finally signed into law by the governor of New Hampshire. And I have right here the pen. The gubernatorial pen that was used to sign Signum's bill into law here in the drawer next to me. So that was a lot of fun. And of course, the next step is institutional accreditation. And in that process, we have now been involved for a little over a year. About 14 months since we began that process. We are 2 stages into that. It's a long process. We're 2 stages into that process. It has been an enormous amount of work. We just recently, like 2 weeks ago, submitted the next sort of big chunk of things for them to review. The full, essentially, profile and details and information about Signum that we submit to them for them to review. 334 separate documents, not pages, documents that we sent to them. It's been a massive amount of work. So that's still ongoing. That process is still ongoing. And of course, we don't have a whole lot of control over the timing of that. So I cannot tell you exactly when the accreditation process will be completed, nor, of course, can I give any guarantees about the outcome of that process. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but we do know that process is well underway, and we've been working very, very hard on that. So that obviously, as soon as there is news to share, we shall certainly share it when that comes down. But it's going to be a while yet. We are something like the middle of that process. But it's a huge deal, and one of the biggest things that's going on behind the scenes here at Signum. Our graduate school, of course, the Signum Graduate School, our MA program is our flagship program, which has been from the beginning. That was Signum University right from the very beginning, and our MA program is really thriving. As I've mentioned, we've been doing really great. In fact, this fall semester that we're currently in the middle of, or well, in the second half of now, actually, we've set an all-time record for course registration for this fall. We've got more students registered in the MA program this fall than we've ever had registered in a single semester before. So our MA program is going really, really well, very strong. We love our students and our faculty, and that program just continues to be a delight. And now we also have, many of you will know about or have heard about our certificate program. We launched our certificate program in 2016, so it's been around for quite a while now. We've been running our certificate program for 5 years, and the idea of the certificate program was to create an option for people who wanted to take credit courses with us, but weren't sure they wanted to go all the way through the master's program, and in particular weren't sure. And the master's thesis, which is the capstone of the MA program, it's a lot of work. It's a significant scholarly project, and there were a bunch of our students who, because we're really enthusiastic about digging in and working and doing the classes, but weren't sure that was really sort of for them what they wanted to do. So we started the certificate program in order to provide students with that option. And we've had the certificate, with specialization in our different concentrations: Tolkien studies, imaginative lit, classical, medieval, and Renaissance literature, and of course Germanic philology. But I am here to announce today that we are making a significant change. Well, we're not changing the program itself all that much, but it's a significant change. We're going to change the name of that program. So we are no longer going to be calling it our certificate program. We are going to call it, from henceforward, that program shall be called our graduate diploma program. Now, let me explain why we're making this change. For two reasons. One, again, 2016, when we launched our certificate program, this was we had our MA program and we had this, and that was kind of it. It was like all that we had, right? And so we wanted to signify that it was, this is not a degree program, right? It's just a certificate program. But as we've added more programs, we have our PATH program, and we have our clubs program, and we're launching our space program now. And I was concerned that certificate was a little vague. Like, people get certificates can mean like the word, I got a certificate, right? Can mean so many different things. It could mean, you did a serious course of graduate study like this, or it could mean like I did a weekend seminar on something, and got I watched a weekend seminar online while doing something else and got a certificate for it. I mean, it's really vague, right? I mean, the word certificate is used very, very broadly. But graduate diploma, so there are two things that I wanted to really emphasize here. Now, the phrase diploma, or the word diploma is really only used in America about high school diplomas. I know, but actually the idea of a graduate diploma program is quite a common one outside of America, especially in Europe and Australia. And the kind of program that so we're kind of looking around and we found that what they call a graduate diploma program is actually exactly what our program is. That is, it's usually like, half of an MA, which is precisely what our certificate program is. You take 10 of our courses plus the capstone for the MA. You take 5 of our courses for our certificate program. So it's a graduate diploma program. And the thing we wanted to emphasize, so first, it gives the program a little bit clearer of an identity, right? It's not just ye old random certificate program, but it also really shows the seriousness of that program, because our certificate students who are now our diploma students, they're taking the same classes as our MA students. They're taking fewer of them, but they're taking the same class. Look, you wouldn't know. They're all taking it for credit, right? All sitting in the same classroom, taking the same classes for credit. You're doing serious graduate work, right? This is it's a non-degree program, but it's a degree level program. It is a serious, you're taking serious graduate courses. And we want that to be reflected in the name, to really show this is part of our graduate school. Let there be no mistakes about that, right? So we're not making very substantive changes to the program. We're just changing the name because we think that will really help us to make that clear. Now, yes, you can, in the past, Plixie on YouTube, you have been able to get a certificate. And then if you choose, when you get toward the end of the certificate program, some people do then choose to be like, actually, no, I do want to continue and do the master's degree. And yes, those classes are transferable directly to the MA program. That's what it means when I say that it's a degree level program. It doesn't culminate in an official degree, right? The graduate diploma is not an official degree like the MA degree, right? But it is degree level for exactly that reason. And of course, some people who begin our MA program might say like, oh, I'll shift to the graduate diploma program. I'm not sure I have the time to complete the whole master's degree right now. So maybe I'll shift to the graduate diploma program. You can go, and we have to talk with you about it, right? But you can do that. And again, that's one of the things that we wanted to make that more obvious in the naming of it. And there's one other change that we're making to our graduate diploma program, which is really exciting, which is we're adding an optional, it's not mandatory, capstone experience for the diploma program. And one of the things that's especially exciting about this is that we're going to enable students to choose, if they choose to do a creative capstone experience to this. This is a question we get a lot from people who are thinking about our master's or beginning our master's degree program. They'll ask us things like, can I do a creative, thesis, a creative capstone? And the answer has always been no. You can't. Because, there are requirements. Again, did I mention we're going through the accreditation process? There are standards and expectations for what a master's degree thesis should be, and that would not fit. That would not fit the nature of this program. It really does need to be a scholarly research project of one kind or another, and so we make that clear in our requirements for our MA capstone. So we've always had to say no to people who say, can I do it now? And we're still going to have to say no within the context of our MA program, but within our graduate diploma program, we now can say yes to folks who want to do a creative project as a culmination of that. And again, that's optional. People don't have to do the capstone if they don't want to, but there's going to be an opportunity for that, which I think is pretty exciting. So again, other than that, you can choose to specialize in one of our concentrations. So you can get a graduate diploma with a concentration in Tolkien studies if you like, or you could, just get a general graduate diploma in language and literature if you like. So again, the program itself hasn't changed that much, but I believe that this will be a really good step forward in the identity of this program, and I think it clarifies things a great deal. So, okay, that's what's been going on in our graduate school, which is really fun. Our undergraduate program, you'll remember last year in our State of the University address, I talked a lot about our plan for our undergraduate program, the Signum College Applied Humanities program. I am every bit as excited about our undergraduate program as I was last year. What I can say on this is more soon. The reason we have not moved faster on this, the reason you have not heard much about this since last year has to do, did I mention we're in the middle of the accreditation process? That's what it's about, really. Because our undergraduate program is going to be under the umbrella of our institutional accreditation when and if we are granted institutional accreditation, there are processes that have to be gone through. And again, I also mentioned before that the time frame on this is not exactly in our hands. So that has been a little bit more delayed than I would theoretically want it to be. If it were just me, I would be much swifter in pushing this forward. But that's the way it is, and we are content. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you can expect to hear some more things about this during the course of this year. We won't be starting it up right away this year, but you should be hearing some more about this as we move through the course of the year. Okay. Next, Mythgard Institute. So the Mythgard Institute is also going to be expanding soon. We are going to be beginning our Mythgard Miscellany program before too long. Now, that was something that has been in the works for a while. That's also been delayed for a different reason, but actually a happy reason. And the happy reason is the birth of the child of our Mythgard Institute director, for which we've kind of paused things because both our director and her baby are awesome. And we have been enjoying them enjoying their time together. But soon we are going to be returning. So you will hear more about Mythgard Miscellany and some new Mythgard programs, which are going to be expanding out to other fandoms. Mythgard Institute has been mostly my broadcasts to this point, and so therefore has been mostly Tolkien-centered. That's kind of the way it is, right? But that will not always be true, or will not exclusively be true anymore moving forward soon. So that is a thing that is coming. Signum Path. So our Signum Path program, for those of you who don't know, our Signum Path program is a professional development program. It is a humanities-based program that is designed to train people in what are often called soft skills, what I think of as just people skills or even as foundational skills. Written communication, verbal communication, person-to-person skills, things that will just make anyone a better candidate for jobs. You know, the humanities are immensely practical. This is a thing many of you know that I could kind of rant about this quite a bit. I'm going to try to restrain myself from ranting. But of course, people tend to think about the humanities as if they're impractical, right? It's like, oh, it's, maybe fun to think about, but, it doesn't have anything to do with getting jobs or, like, what are you going to do with an English major after all? But of course, the main point, sort of the real point about the humanities is that the kinds of skills that they develop are applicable everywhere. It's true, there are a few of them which uniquely, make you able to apply for a particular kind of job that you couldn't have applied for before. But the point is that they make you more likely to succeed in whatever job you have. And especially as you are trying to not just get a job and keep a job, but develop a career. So that's the sort of the spirit of our PATH program. And our classes have been great. We've had wonderful feedback from the students that we've had so far. And we have an exciting announcement. We've established a new partnership, the opportunity for which just kind of recently unfolded, and I've been really excited about. We have a wonderful member of our Signum community who is who works as an administrator, has worked as an administrator for several tribal colleges in northern Minnesota. Sorry, several Native American tribal colleges. He reached out and was talking about the need for the Native American nation that he's connected with right now, that he's working with right now. They were really feeling the need for this kind of development. They wanted to see, especially their young people and their current employees, there on site in their reservation, to be being able to develop these kinds of professional skills. They really saw the value of this kind of training and were looking for a way that they could, help to improve, to provide people with the opportunity to improve these skills. So we are delighted to partner with Red Lake Nation in Minnesota, and we're going to be offering some PATH classes to some of their college students in the new year. And I am just, I'm really excited about this. We're looking forward. It's one of the really cool things in the next few months. We at Signum are looking forward to learning more of their languages, traditions, cultures, and stuff. And, and then from there launching their courses with their undergrads next year. I'm hopeful, by the way, to get more chances to learn from them. I will whisper that I'm planning to invite some of their teachers to offer some space modules on their language, mythology, and traditions, which I think will be really, really fun to learn. So keep your eye out for that. I hope that works out. But anyway, this is it's a wonderful opportunity for PATH, and it's like, for me, it's just like the best kind of opportunity, right? That, like, on the one hand, yeah, it's going to be awesome for our program and helping to establish our program. But more importantly, it's a great chance for us to do some good in the lives of some really deserving people. And I think it's going to be a really fruitful partnership that I am very, very excited about. So that's the big thing that is happening in Signum PATH world this past year. Quite recently, actually, that has emerged. Signum Academy Clubs. Well, an update is that Signum Academy Clubs exists. Right? As I said last year, this time, we hadn't even thought of it yet. And since last year, we not only thought of it, but we put it into place. And we not only put it into place. Now, what is it? I should make sure to specify in case you don't know. Of course, our Signum Academy Clubs program is our extracurricular club program for K through 12 kids. Well, grade 3 to 12 kids. Maybe some year we will get frisky enough to expand that program to kindergartners, first graders, and second graders, but we're growing into that right now. For now, we're starting at third grade and going up through high school. And we're offering book clubs, creative writing clubs, and 2 different kinds of language clubs: conversation clubs in modern languages and translation clubs for historical languages. Those have been really great. The very first thing that we did with our clubs program was apply for approval to the state of New Hampshire, totally different body in the state of New Hampshire that we were applying to. This was the State Board of Education, which, of course, oversees K through 12 education in the state, whereas as opposed to the master's degree program, which had to be approved by the Higher Education Commission of the state of New Hampshire, not to mention the legislature, which was a ball. But anyway, the Learn Everywhere program in the state of New Hampshire is an innovative program, actually the first of its kind in the country that I know of. And it was just implemented for the first time in the fall last year. And in fact, Signum University was the second program, the first humanities program in history to be approved within the Learn Everywhere program. We did that process last fall and into January. And the Learn Everywhere program is very simple. What it does is it basically enables students to earn achievement certificates, basically, from our program, and they can take those programs, because we've been approved by the Board of Education, they can take those certificates to their schools, and they can redeem those for graduation credit from their schools. So the schools they are in fact by law obligated to give the students credit. So you can get elective credit in English and for English Lit, for creative writing, for languages. So instead of doing languages, so like maybe, for instance, you want to study a language that isn't offered at your school, like maybe for some reason, and I don't know why this would be, but maybe for some reason your local public high school doesn't offer Old Norse as a language option for students, right? I mean, like, I know, kind of strange and backward, right? But I've heard that some public schools in the state of New Hampshire don't offer Old Norse to their students. But you want to take Old Norse because you're like, Old Norse, right? Talk like a Viking. Yeah, naturally we want to learn that. So you can take Old Norse through Translation Club with Signum Academy, and then you can take those certificates to your school, and you can that counts as your foreign language requirement. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So so we were approved there in the state of New Hampshire. By the way, the Learn Every program has been really successful in New Hampshire, and there are many other states that have been copying it. For instance, the legislation has been passed into law in West Virginia and Mississippi, and I believe North Dakota as well. This is all kind of unfolding. And so we're going to be seeking approval in those states as well, so we can have the same setup in those other states also. Anyway, so we were very early adopters of the Learn Everywhere program. We were some of the very first programs, one of the two very first programs who were approved by the state. And so actually over the course of this past year, we ended up advising a bunch of other programs who were kind of discovering about the Learn Everywhere program, and helping. We've helped a number of other programs get accepted. So Simon, yes, this is right now. This is just in the state of New Hampshire, but as I say, it is being adopted by some other states around. So it's kind of spreading. Talk to your legislators. Learn Everywhere is awesome. But anyway, so that's been a really, really fun thing. But here's one of the other opportunities that it has created. And that is the opportunity for us to actually partner with schools. Because there's a lot of schools. And as you know, I'm sure many of you know of, small private schools or charter schools or things where it can be a real struggle finding enough teachers, especially for languages, right? It can be really hard to bring in language teachers, multiple language, especially if you have a smallish student population, right? To bring in language teachers, you might not really have full-time work for a language teacher. So it's like, hi, can you teach French quarter time or something like that? Not necessarily attractive to a lot of people. And that has to be from within their geographic area because they've got to get to the school, right? So what we did this year was we approached schools and said, hey, why don't you work with us? Because not only can we make these languages available to you more readily, but we could greatly expand the opportunities that you have. So even a little small school would be able to offer, not just Spanish and French and Latin or something like that, but they would also be able to offer things like German and Japanese and Mandarin and all kinds of other things, right? There are lots of languages that we can do, not to mention Old Norse, Old English, and other awesome languages like that. Greek, Hebrew, right? We could do all those languages. So we have begun reaching out to schools. Now, again, our program is brand new, so we're sort of still trying to establish those relationships. But we did, in fact, establish a partnership for this academic year with Mount Royal Academy in Sunapee, New Hampshire. It's a wonderful little small Catholic school in Sunapee, New Hampshire, and they were in a bind. They just they lost their Spanish teacher, and they could not find options, as is often the case with small schools living in not a metropolitan part of the world. And can you find somebody in the local community who can teach your Spanish? That's not always easy, right? And again, many of you who have been involved with this kind of school in one capacity or other know the kind of struggles there can be here. So basically, we partnered with them, and we are running their Spanish program this year. And it is, you will hear from Pilar Barrera later on in the day. She's going to be teaching one of our space capsules on fairy tales early this evening. And she's actually our head teacher in the Mount Royal Academy program, teaching Spanish there. And she actually lives in Brazil. So instead of having to just restrict their job search to, Spanish teachers who happen to live in Sunapee, New Hampshire, in the throbbing metropolis of Sunapee, New Hampshire, instead we were able to bring in a teacher from Brazil, who is currently from Brazil teaching their Spanish classes at Mount Royal Academy. And it has been phenomenal. The students have been responding really well. Our teachers have been doing a wonderful job. And that's been going really, really well. So this is the first of, I hope, many similar kinds of partnerships that we will be able to establish with schools to do not only languages, but hopefully other elective literature options and creative writing and things. Again, often not the staffing to do that. So we're really hoping to expand that, and also to do similar work with homeschool groups as well. Again, I know homeschool co-ops often, it's not always easy to find this kind of instruction for homeschoolers as well. And this is something that Signum Academy clubs would be really, really well positioned to do. So anyway, that's been a really fun thing that has been developing this past year, in addition to the fact that all of Signum Academy clubs has been developing. Now, in the midst of all this activity, we've also developed this brand new program that we're going to be launching today, the space program. Now, you might be thinking, really? Another Signum program? I mean, that's three new programs in the last 2 years, right? And I understand. I understand if maybe you're thinking that, right? If maybe you're thinking, okay, they used to have this MA program, right? And then, and they had the MA program and the Mythgard stuff going on, and then, Olson went insane, right? And now they have all of these programs that are just popping up all over the place. So I get that. I understand how it can kind of look like that. And I sort of suspect that many people look at our programs kind of like this, right? It's so what I'm showing here is a row of boxes, identical sized boxes, which just sort of list our programs: the MA program, our PATH program, clubs, the undergrad program to come, and our Mythgard Institute programs. And now we're just going to add another box to this row, right, called space. And it might seem okay, do we really, it's just this kind of marching series of programs, this a mere proliferation. I've had people say shouldn't you maybe focus on doing one thing really well instead of just doing bunches and bunches of programs? What's going on here? Oh, and anyway, here's another thing I've gotten. Aren't you guys supposed to be a university, right? Higher education? Why are you doing all this other stuff, right? Kids programs, and now you're getting into adult education, adult continuing education. Why not focus? If you're a university, why not focus on university stuff, right? And I get that. I get it. I understand. But there are two things that I would say to this. The first thing I would say is, yes, we are a university. We are a university, and we aim to change the world of higher education, right? We are setting out to break the mold of traditional higher education. Our graduate program is already showing the way there, right? Demonstrating that our new model of affordable, highly engaged online education works, right? It works. It's viable, and it's sustainable. It's been going for 10 years and it's been growing and it's been excellent, and we've had excellent results, right? So, and of course our undergraduate program, oh man, we have big plans, right? For our undergraduate program, big plans to change not just the tuition model, right? I mean, for us, that's like a given, right? That we're going to change the tuition model and we're going to bring everything way down from traditional undergraduate tuition levels. But we're not just going to do that. We're changing the very parameters and approaches to undergraduate degree programs, right? Right now, undergraduate degree programs are, locked in this narrow path, right? Like the 4-year degree program, ye old bachelor's degree. And I do not believe that ye old bachelor's degree is the way that things are going to need to be in the future. I don't think that puts people in the best opportunity, it gives people the best opportunity to succeed personally. So I don't think it's the best thing for our students. And I don't think that it is, and I certainly don't think that it fulfills the potential of what an undergraduate program can offer to people. Now, we are going to offer a bachelor's degree. That's going to happen, but it's going to be so much more than just that. So like I said, we are absolutely looking to change the paradigm. We have changed the paradigm. And it's going to be exciting to watch over the next 3 to 5 years what we do with our higher education programs at Signum University. So yeah, we're a university. Yeah, we're doing the higher education thing. But that's not the only way in which we aim to change the educational world. Our educational model is oriented on a completely different axis. Let me explain what I mean. Let me show you what I mean here. Here's a little visualization of how traditional higher education works. Traditional higher education works in a horizontal model, right? So on my little graph here, across the x-axis along the bottom, we've got different subjects, right? And on the y-axis is the age of students, sort of age groups of students, okay? Now, of course, obviously there are outliers and exceptions. That's always true, right? But this is kind of the broad stroke, right, of what universities focus on. And generally, higher education does two things, right? A university does two things. They do undergraduate education and they do graduate education. So the dark but thinner bar here is the undergraduate education, right? And it's thin because remember the y-axis, the vertical axis is age. So generally it's catering to traditional aged undergrad. And again, I know there are exceptions, non-traditional undergrads and all that kind of thing. But again, in general, the standard traditional higher education template is established for those 18 to 22-year-olds who are doing undergraduate. Now, graduate programs serve students in a broader age range, right? People are doing graduate programs, often in the decade or two following undergraduate at various different points and stages. But that's also a much, much lower population, right? So it's a broader band, but it's fuzzier, right? It serves a much lesser population. Now, of course, they focus on doing this broadly, horizontally, right? Across lots and lots of disciplines. So you go to your traditional, big box university on campus and you'll get, you do all the, you've got the tons and tons of programs, right? In sciences, in maths, in social sciences. By professional careers, I mean things like law and business, and not to mention all of the like professional sort of certifications and things that you can get. You can major in all kinds of very career specific things, right? That aren't really traditional academic disciplines at all. So anyway, you can do all those things, just this huge array of programs, but it's all focused at this relatively either thin band or kind of diffuse band, right, of graduate and undergraduate programs. And again, I don't mean any criticism on this. This is great stuff, right? Great stuff that they do. But the thing that I want to point out here, is the emptiness at the bottom and at the top. Traditional higher education does very little for people under the age of 18, and it does very little for people over the age of 35 to 40, something like that. that's not where the focus of traditional higher education is. So it's horizontal, it's broad, but it's not thick in that way. Signum University's approach is fundamentally different. In fact, it's 90 degrees rotated from this. Signum University has a vertical model, not a horizontal model. Now, we don't have the breadth. We are focused on a niche. Now, our niche has expanded, has grown a little bit organically over time. When we started, our niche was Tolkien studies, right? Which is a pretty specific niche, right? A very, very, like, the focus on the study of one single author within literary studies. That's a very, very narrow niche for an entire university, right? But we expanded from Tolkien study. Again, it was an organic expansion as student interest grew and demand for courses developed. We expanded from just Tolkien studies to imaginative lit, that is fantasy and science fiction, to classical, medieval, and Renaissance literature. And of course, also to Germanic philology, which a lot of people are like, that seems kind of random. And I'm like, you're not a Tolkien fan, are you? If you were a Tolkien fan, the propinquity of Germanic philology to Tolkien studies would make perfect sense to you. But anyway, So it's grown in that way. And now, as I was explaining last year, we want to expand out even more, especially through the launching of our undergraduate program, when that happens in the fullness of time, to a broader study of the humanities as a whole. That seemed like a really big step. But again, when we look at this, it's still very narrow compared to the scope of most universities, right? We're not doing sciences, we're not doing maths, we're not doing social sciences, we're not, teaching you, how to like install HVAC equipment or whatever. Like, we're not doing any of that stuff, right? Or how to become an engineer. That's not what we do at Signum University. The humanities is what we do. So we're very narrow, but we are extremely vertical, right? Within that niche, we want to occupy that niche vertically. And so, as you can see, the expanding of our programs has been to basically to do all that we can to enrich everybody, right? To stretch that band vertically. Our MA program and our Mythgard programs have had a pretty broad appeal, right? I mean, we start with our MA program after graduation, so you have to have your bachelor's degree in order to start the MA program, right? But we've had MA students. There hasn't been any upward limit. Let me just say, I don't want to name numbers and embarrass anybody. But we have had students of very disparate ages in our MA program, and of course, lots of people participating in Mythgard, even down to high school and below. That has not been restricted, of course, just to the postgraduate world. And we've been kind of digging deeper there too, right? We started our clubs program, as I said, so we have a more focused program now for the under 18 demographic. We have our PATH program, which is really sort of focused on, because that is really focused on developing, career-oriented skills. And so it tends to be focused on, people like, from like late high school age, getting ready to, go off into college or into the job market, on to people who are looking to advance themselves in their career, through the, first half or, 2/3 or whatever of your career trajectory. So and then of course our undergraduate program, we're going to, that's a sort of an outer bracket that we're going to be building. So all of this stuff is kind of what we've been doing to sort of develop that vertically. So when people ask me things like, aren't you supposed to be a university? Why are you doing all this other programs? My answer is, yeah, of course we're a university, and we're just doing it differently, right? Instead of spreading horizontally, we're spreading vertically. And I'm happy with that. Our niche has been an awesome niche. I love our niche, and I'm sticking with it. We have no plans to expand any of these programs, Mythgard, our MA program, undergrad PATH clubs, into these other kinds of, disciplines and trainings at this point. But I think it's very much a part of our educational mission to occupy this niche as fully as we can and to give as many people as possible opportunities to learn. Now, I have thought for a while, like it looks like we've got this covered pretty well, right? You can see there's even like overlaps and everything. You know, we've got mostly, right, that vertical niche sort of covered, it seems, right? And for a while, I thought this too, right? I thought that like, okay, you know, I was content for a bit. So I returned to the question. So wait a second. When are you going to get around, you might be thinking, to explaining why we need another program exactly, right? Well, okay, I can explain. Because it's not just yet another box in a row of boxes, right? That's not how our programs work at all. I wanted to start the space program because I came to a realization recently that there's a need in our community that we could fill that we're not filling. Let me show you, because again, it's not these separate boxes. Here's how it really works. Okay. Here's Signum's box of programs, right? Or really another way to think about this box is that this box is like the educational needs or desires, right, of our community, right? This is like all of the folks that we're connected to and what their educational needs are, right? Okay, so the first thing that we did is start our MA program. So how much of this box does our MA program fill in? Not much. Right. You know, I got my tiny little MA program box in the top corner. Now, keep in mind, obviously, our MA program is awesome. The point is, as awesome as our MA program is, it's not for everybody, right? I mean, not everybody needs or wants a master's degree in language and literature. I know to some people that might sound like a crazy thing to say, but I mean, it's true, right? It's like master's study. This is a serious graduate program. And the courses are pretty intense. You're going to work really hard in our master's degree program. It's a graduate program, for crying out loud. And that doesn't meet everybody's needs, right? So that when you take the total number of people in our larger community who are actively engaged in our MA program, I think that my little square in the top right corner here of our big box is actually out of scale. It's too large. It's actually a far smaller percentage of our total community who is actively engaged in our MA program. So that's where we started. But we've been adding programs, right? We added the PATH program. And so the PATH program is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit broad. It's reaching a broader audience, right? It's filling a broader niche. It's still kind of focused though, right? It's just that kind of professional development course. So it's not meeting the educational needs of everybody, but it's a little broader in its application than the MA program. We have Signum Clubs, which is broader yet because it serves a whole swath of people. And, you know, in addition to the clubs we have the ability to add some more clubs there and maybe kind of expand things there. So, you know, we can say maybe clubs is a little bit bigger, but, you know, it's serving, doing a pretty good service to a significant chunk, that, you know, ages 8 to 18 chunk, but still it's not exactly filling in the whole box, right? Now, our undergraduate program, when it comes, is going to do more, right? That's going to be the sort of broadest program that will have the greatest ability to kind of meet people's educational needs and desires. And it's going to overlap with PATH, and it's going to be kind of surrounding and supporting the MA program, our graduate school. So that's getting there. So, you know, all right, you'll notice we've only got a little bit of blacks. Well, a little bit, you know, maybe like a little more than half filled in, right? But we still got these big empty spaces. But wait a second. What about Mythgard, right? Mythgard, discussions and stuff are open to everybody. Right. So it doesn't cover everything, right? Because Mythgard, I get this all the time. People are always like, hey, you should do more, you know, science fiction or this or that or whatever it is, whatever other people want to do that I am not currently doing and don't have time to do. And, so it doesn't quite fill in the whole thing. There's a black border around it, but it's open to everybody, right? And we get lots and lots of folks who are able to participate in our Mythgard programs. And so, maybe with Mythgard Miscellany, right, as we kind of expand that box out and cover some more things, maybe we'll fill it all in and everything's going to be fine, right? And we're meeting everybody's potential needs, right? Maybe, right? And again, this is the angle from which I looked at Signum's programs for a while, right? And I was like, okay, right? Now that we have Path and clubs going on, and we've got our plans for the undergrad program in place, and we have Mythgard running, we're meeting the needs of our community, right? So wait, why do we need the space program? Again, have I answered the question yet? No, not really. Here is the insight that I recently had. Here's the thing, because I was bothered, right? I was still bothered. I'm like, on the one hand, I feel like on paper, we're doing a good job of, covering the needs of our community. And yet I could tell there was still more, right? There was still more. And I realized finally what the problem was. The problem was, as Mr. Spock would have told me all along, I was showing signs of two-dimensional thinking. Because this is what these programs actually look like. If you take our programs and you turn them to the side, you can see there's a lot of empty space in there, right? And in particular, you'll notice that our Mythgard, our largest of all of them boxes, the Mythgard programs, are actually quite thin, right? They are open to everybody. But there's a lot of ways in which they are not really satisfying people's educational needs. They are, for one thing, it's not only just a coverage question, right? Even when we cover more of Mythgard stuff, that is more different, different fandoms and more fantasy and science fiction things, it's still just fantasy and science fiction things. There's much more stuff. There's a whole, that's like one pretty narrow plane, right, in a large world of things for people to want to learn. But even more than that, it's also about method as well. My weekly broadcasts, right? People want to be involved more. People want to talk, right? Those of you who are in my Exploring the Lord of the Rings classes on Tuesday nights know that I'm trying to follow along questions and you guys are all wanting to discuss, right? And argue with each other and stuff like that. You want to be part of a more full contact immersive educational experience. And I know that, and I get that. That's why I founded Signum originally, was that I wanted to provide more opportunities for that. So there is so much that we are not, there's all of this empty space. And so in fact, when I looked at it from this new perspective, what I saw was what seemed to be almost complete coverage, right, of our niche, almost complete coverage of our vertical area there, is actually, we're not even filling half of the volume of this, right? What we need is a program that's going to fill in the whole cube, right? Not just around the edges of the box seen from a narrow two-dimensional perspective. So that is what the space program is. That's what we are launching here today. That program which is going to fill in the cube and provide opportunities for all other educational, I say all other, maybe it's not all. Maybe there'll be a fourth dimension that I will discover. But I'm really excited about this. The SPACE program, of course, SPACE is an acronym for Signum Portals for Adult Continuing Education. And I'm going to now explain to you how the SPACE program is going to work. So first question, and this is exactly why, so there are two reasons why my theme for the fundraising campaign this year was the final frontier. First, because whenever I say the word space, the first thing everybody says is the final frontier. So I just figured I'd own it. But secondly, because do you see what I mean about the final, why I feel like this is the final frontier? It's that filling in all of the gaps, right? Being able to have the opportunity to meet the needs of everyone in our community, right? Which is really, really exciting. So the first question that you're going to be asking is, what kind of classes are we offering in the space? What is it? What's it like? So first, our space program is going to be divided into modules. We're going to do a set of modules. So every module is going to be a month long, right? So every month we will have a new set of modules in the space program. So this is our classes, in other words, are going to be a long series of very short classes. So it's not a big commitment. You're not committing yourself to, a like 3 or 4 month semester. You can just do 1 month at a time. You can come and go at your own pace, right? Now, during that month, when you're enrolled in a space module, the general template is that you'll do 2 sessions per week for 4 weeks. Those are 1-hour sessions, right? So 2 1-hour sessions a week for 4 weeks, 8 total hours of class time. The classes are small group discussion classes. So you will have a preceptor, your professor, and you will have up to about 12 students in the section with you. More than that, and we will we'll begin looking into launching a second section of it. These are designed to be synchronous because I know that you can. It's not, when I say we're filling in the gaps of learning, I know that people aren't sitting out there being like, "There's no way I can learn anything." Right? I'm helpless to learn. Like, of course you're not helpless to learn. You can learn anything you want to learn on YouTube, right? You can, there's lots and lots of places where you can get access to information and learn stuff for free. Totally know that, absolutely acknowledge that, completely encourage that, right? But Signum University was founded on the basic premise that that kind of independent learning isn't for everybody, that there are many people who learn much, much better in a classroom environment with fellow students they can talk to and in that kind of community of accountability and with a teacher who is able to interact with them and be able to have that kind of a dynamic educational classroom experience. There are a lot of people who just learn a lot better that way. Are you one of these people who have said, I really want to learn another language, and you've tried, Duolingo, and you've tried, many other kinds of online language services and just haven't gotten anywhere, right? It just hasn't really panned out for you. You haven't completed it, right? It hasn't worked. Well, maybe space is for you, right? Space is going to provide you an opportunity, a real supportive classroom environment for you to be able to pursue these things. Now, what kinds of things? Okay, so let me show you. These modules that I'm going to be describing, these are all modules that we're launching in December. So December is going to be our first modules. These modules are all going to be available for December. So this is not theoretical. These are actual modules that we have teachers waiting, ready to precept those modules this coming December, right? So what can you do? Well, maybe you want to start learning a language, as I just mentioned, right? So in December, we will have conversational French, conversational Spanish, introductory Latin 1, Old English 1, and introductory Egyptian hieroglyphics 1. Now, let me just clarify very quickly here. Conversational French and Spanish, those are designed to be immersive, conversation-based classes. So you're not going to have like a textbook you're slogging through. It's going to be focused on comprehension and speech, right? So just developing your actual conversational ability in modern languages. And those are modules that we're going to be able to offer again and again. So if you take a module in conversational French in December, you could continue and take that same module again in January and then again in February and continue practicing, right? So there we go. So that's conversational French and Spanish. Now, the ones with the numbers, right? Introductory Latin 1, Old English 1, and introductory Egyptian hieroglyphics 1, those are all going to be serials, right? Because these are going to be, systematically training you in these historical languages, right? So those will be a series of modules. You'll follow up Introductory Latin 1 with Introductory Latin 2, which will be offered in January, and all that kind of thing. And there will be other opportunities to start it again, or if you need to take a month off, you should be able to come back later to do some more. So that is how those will work. So these are our first 5 modules. Well, no, these are just our beginning language modules. Because wait, there's more. We also have advanced languages. Maybe you've already trained in some of these languages, but you'd like to practice. You'd like to develop it more. Okay, you can also take, we have 2 modules in Latin readings. That is, doing readings of either Cicero's Pro Archia or Catullus's poetry in Latin, right? So that you can be polishing up and practicing your Latin through actual translation and reading original authors in Latin. Or maybe with Old English, right? Maybe you've taken Old English before, right? And you've done some reading, maybe you've done a little Beowulf translation in your past, right? Have some familiarity with Old English. Wouldn't it be great to maintain your Old English or even brush it up a little bit? So we have 2 different Old English readings modules here. One to read some Old English poetry, which will focus on Judith and Exodus. 2 Bible poems, or you can be working on a translation of the Old English Boethius. Boethius' Consolation of Philosophy. We also have 2 Middle English modules. One on Chaucer. So we'll have one module on the Canterbury Tales, and then another on readings in Middle English before Chaucer, where in particular, what they'll be reading this December is Havelock the Dane. So you can be exploring Middle English, especially the Middle English that came prior to Chaucer. Really, really fun. Now, by the way, one thing I would add here, Canterbury Tales 1, this is not going to be a series in the same way that like Latin and Old English and Egyptian hieroglyphics are going to be, right? Like you really have to have taken the first module before the second module is going to make much sense. This is going to be Canterbury Tales 1, and there's going to be Canterbury Tales 2 in the sense that it's going to be a different module covering a different thing. I think he's going to focus on the Miller's Tale in this module in December. But you don't have to take those in order if you don't want to. Right, you can, but you don't have to. You can kind of take whatever you want to do. Now, again, just to clarify, Cecilia's asking about conversational Spanish 2. There is no 2. It's just conversational Spanish again. Because in our conversational language modules, people at like different experience levels can all work together. Like the point is just to be developing everybody's speech, and there's it's a good way to practice your comprehension and your speech to be helping somebody who's more of a beginner than you, right? And anyway, so like everyone will be kind of working together in those. So there's no sequence there. You just repeat the same module and do it as many times as you like to continue developing your conversational skills. So those are our advanced language modules. Oh, but wait, there's more. How about fantasy literature? Would you want to do some fantasy modules? Yeah, we have that too, right? We have a module on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Discuss The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. We have a wonderful module called Are You Tolkien to Me? That is a module which is going to look at Tolkien's relevance to the modern world. All of the ways how is it that Tolkien... because honestly, Tolkien stuff was written a long time ago and in what looks increasingly like a very different world from our own. How is it? Why is it that Tolkien is still so relevant to the modern, why so many people in the modern world find Tolkien still so relevant to them? That's what this module is going to be looking at. Some of the themes and ideas in Tolkien that connect it to our modern world. We've got a module in the Introduction to Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales and a module in Oscar Wilde's fairy tales. We have a module focusing on Tolkien's Letters from Father Christmas for December, right? Which seems timely. We're going to have a module on Miyazaki's anime films The recovery of innocence is the theme of this module. And a module called To Repair Arda, Tolkien's Dwarves Through Jewish Mysticism. Tolkien has talked about the connections between his dwarves and the Jews. Is there not, a lot of people just sort of focus, I've in the past focused merely on the linguistic connections, right? And some kinds of historical parallels, diaspora and such. But what if there's actually something, a deeper connection than that? So that module is going to explore that really interesting idea. But wait, there's more. How about other humanities, like more broader humanities class? Oh yeah, we got more humanities modules here. We've got a module on English sonnet readings, right? We're going to do a preview of that one later on tonight. So you can dig into some Renaissance poetry. Really, really fascinating period of poetry. I love the intricacy of sonnets and seeing how that stuff works. We have 2 modules on the history of the symphony if you want to learn more about music and music history. One module on the history of the symphony from the beginnings to Beethoven, and another on the history of the symphony after Beethoven. We've got one on how to read a poem. We've got Japanese children's literature, modern British poetry of the 21st century. We've got plague literature, which is kind of topical, and poetry as practical ecology, that is connection between poetry and the land and preserving the world, environmentalism. So we're offering those modules too. Oh, wait. But there's still even more. We also have practical and creative humanities modules. We have 3 different creative writing options if you want to do a creative writing module. We have our creative writing workshop, which is sort of following the normal template. We also have a creative writing module which focuses on developing a 1-month story, like maybe you like to think in NaNoWriMo kind of ways, right? And you want to think about developing a story. How do you develop a story in 1 month? And we've got an opportunity to do an intensive weekend creative writing. So that one is a different time template. Instead of meeting twice a week for 4 weeks, it'll do the entire module in one intensive weekend, really just kind of immersing yourself in a creative writing exercise for a whole weekend. Right, under the guidance of our own Sparrow Alden. We have one on the history of the book arts, looking at alphabets and writing and how sort of the history of books. And we're going to be, and also there's another one on electronic text markup with XML and TEI. So if you are interested in doing some digital humanities, you want to understand how do you go about taking a text and marking it up so that you can do some digital analysis of texts. If you've sort of seen that done and you've been kind of curious, like how do you do this? How could I do this myself? Anyway, we're doing a module on that too. So that is that's all. Every single one of those modules, 32, I believe it is, we are offering for the month of December, right? You can choose among all of those. Now, you might be wondering a few things here. First of all, you know how a lot of times when salesmen are telling you about a new thing and they pump you up and they wait till the very, very end to spring the price on you? I'm going to not do that, right? Let's talk about the price. So first of all, the way that the payment is going to work, the way the tuition is going to work for the space program is you're going to buy tokens, and each one token is basically redeemable for a class. So you're going to buy tokens in advance, right? So you buy 1 token, you buy 3 tokens, you buy 6 tokens, however many tokens you want to buy, right? And then you can use those anytime you want. You can redeem those. So 1 token equals 1 module, and you can cash it in at any time. So this way it's like as flexible as we can possibly make it, right? You've got your tokens and you just cash it in whenever. So you need to take a month off. You don't have to tell anybody. It doesn't matter, right? You just cash them in whenever you want to do that. And here are the rates. We have the price for 1 token is $150. But the price per token decreases steadily if you buy more. So if you buy 6 tokens, you're only paying $100 per. So it's 33% off if you buy 6 of them. So it's only $600 for 6 tokens. This means, if you want to do a little comparison, by the way, so 3 tokens will get you 3 modules. 3 modules equals 12 weeks of class. 12 weeks is the length of a Signum semester, right? So now our space modules are much less intense. You don't have to write papers and stuff like that. So it's not at all a one-to-one comparison between our, a set of space modules and one of our MA courses. But it's the length of one of our MA courses, right? So if you take space modules for 12 weeks, it's a total, for 3 tokens, you can get that for $390 compared to our $650, which is our tuition price for our MA program. Again, you're getting much more and it's a much different situation, but you can kind of see how that compares there. And I dare you, look it up. See how much it would cost you to take a course like this at another university to get some of the kinds of things that we're doing here. So that's the price scale. So first you buy your tokens, and you will see on our space. You can go to our webpage and peruse our webpage. Our webpage is signumuniversity.org/space. So you can easily find our website. There are links for purchasing tokens in units of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 at the prices that you see here on the screen. $150, $280, $390, $480, $550, and $600 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 tokens. So first you buy your tokens, and then you can sign up for your modules after that. Now, let me talk for a second about what makes the space program different, because these things are really fun, right? The first thing that makes space different from any traditional program is freedom. Space is like perfect and complete freedom. There is no expectation. When you design a degree program, you're always imposing these top-down standards, right? No matter how flexible you want to be, there have to be, of course, we as educators have been trained to say things like, what are the expected outcomes from this program? And how can we clearly articulate the outcomes of those programs? Did I mention we're going through the accreditation process? Anyway, so these are the kinds of things that one always asks with a degree program. With space, you can do anything you want. There is perfect freedom. We impose absolutely we don't even give guidance, right? Because it's not our business. You can take whatever you want to take at whatever rate you want to take it. Learn whatever you're interested in. Learn what you love has been a slogan of Signum University since the first year, I believe, of our program. And never has it been more true than it is of the space program. What this means is that we also want it to be extremely responsive. In other words, we have attempted to build a program that is going to be as student-driven as it is possible to be. In fact, what I've striven for here is to create a system which is going to make this program almost like an on-demand program. Now, it can't be totally on-demand, because remember, synchronous classes, right? There are other human beings involved. So you can't it's not like Netflix, right? You can't just go in and start one of these modules at any time. Because again, you can get that kind of stuff anywhere else, right? What you can't get anywhere else, and you can get here, is, as I said, an actual supportive classroom experience. So there are other human beings involved, so there's some coordination that's going to need to happen and some flexibility that's going to be required of everybody. But as I say, my goal is to make it as close to on-demand as possible. That's why we have such a massive list of modules. This is a soft launch, right? I expect that the number of modules we're going to be offering for January, our second month, I would not be surprised a bit if it doubles the total amount of modules that are going to be offered for January, right? So why are we doing it that way? Why do we have all this, and how does it work? Okay, so let me explain. Here's how registration is going to work. Step 1. The first stage, which is happening 2 months before, so now in October, right, is going to be, today is the official beginning, we are launching it, of module selection, right? So first you select your module. So you're going to sign up for space, right? So you look at the modules list and you decide, what's your top choice? Probably the best thing to do would be to go through and say, like, are there multiple ones that I'm interested in, right? So you choose the module you definitely want to take, but you have in mind a couple backups, right? Other things that you might also want to take in case that one doesn't work out. Because here's the thing. We're only going to be able to run modules if we get at least 4 students in them, right? Because otherwise we're going to pay our faculty, right? So otherwise if we do like one-on-one tutorials, we're going to be taking a loss because our tuition's too low, right? So we need to have at least 4 students in a section in order to run it. So we have all of our modules out there. We're just instead of being like, okay, we're going to feed them to you in a row, we just put it out there, right? We put all of them out there and we let you guys choose. So you're going to be voting basically through your registration. You will get the modules list. You will make your selection in that first month. So in the month of October, people are going to be selecting modules for December. Then stage 2 starts, right? Stage 2 is preparing for launch. So that's what's going to happen in November, right? In November, we're going to look at all of the selections, right, that people have made, and we're going to see which modules are we going to be able to run in December, right? So I'm sure, I'm not expecting all 32 of those modules actually to happen in December. They're all they're all available. We have preceptors standing by, ready to teach any of them or all of them. But I'm not expecting that that's actually going to occur. We'll see. We'll see which ones people choose. And so all of the modules that we have enough people for and that we can do, we're going to confirm this. So in November, we'll make an announcement and we'll say, okay, here's our confirmed modules list. That's why we call the initial list candidate modules. These are the candidates, right? So the modules I just described, those are the candidates for December. Any of them, all of them viable, all of them ready to go. But not all of them probably are going to run. So when in November we announce the confirmed list, then we finalize registration and settle down into those confirmed modules list. And then, of course, December, we begin the modules. So let me go through this again from the student perspective. So again, you're wanting to sign up, right? That was the overview. Here's your perspective. Step 1. You buy your tokens. That's the very first thing you do, because we're not even going to open the registration form to people who don't have tokens already, because it's going to be too confusing. We can't have people just being like, oh yeah, I kind of have a vague interest in taking this module. We have to make decisions on which ones we're going to promise to offer, right? So we're only going to be able to do that for people who have like signed up and bought their tokens. So you buy your tokens. After you buy your tokens, you're going to receive by email a selection form with all the modules in it. And it'll also have time of day, right? It'll have 3 options for times of day for each of the modules, so that you can rank which ones, how do you want to do them? Like, which times fit best for you, right? And so then we're going to look at all this stuff. We're going to look at the results of all the selection forms we receive from the people who have bought tokens, and we're going to make decisions, right? We're going to make decisions about which modules we're going to confirm, and we'll be announcing that in November. So step 3, we will notify you, right? We'll send you an email to say, okay, here are our confirmed modules that we're offering in December. Now, there's one of 2 possibilities for you, right? So you've signed up for one, right? And now we're sending you the confirmed module. So option number 1, the module you signed up for is confirmed. Great, you're registered. You're good to go. You're all set, right? And you're planning on December. But maybe the module that you selected wasn't confirmed. Maybe there didn't happen to be enough people who wanted to take that module this month, right? And so we're not going to end up running the one you selected. So we'll let you know. We'll let you know and say, okay, sorry, we're not going to be able to run that module this month, but what do you want to do? Do you want to switch to another one? This is why you should think about backups earlier on. So then you'll look at the confirmed list and say, like, okay, can I do one of those? Because it'll also have the days and times. When the list is confirmed, it'll have the days and times. So you'll be able to say, okay, can I do one of these? If so, great. Let us know which one you want to change to, and we'll put you in that one. Or maybe you say you want to wait. You're like, oh no, I'll see. Maybe it'll run next month, right? Maybe it'll run in January. So fine. You can do that. And then step 4, when your module starts, your token is officially used, right? So we kind of just keep track of your tokens. It's a kind of digital currency, right? So when you purchase your tokens, we will keep track of how many tokens you have in your bank, right? When you begin So like in December, when your module begins, we will, sort of tick off one of your tokens, but it won't happen until then. So if you, select a module and then it, doesn't work, you don't have to worry about like getting a refund or anything like that. All your tokens will still be good for whenever you want to wait to do. We don't, we don't count your token until the thing starts. And then of course it started. Here's a kind of a calendar view, again, to sort of see how the 3-month cycle is going to be working. So again, we're offering our candidate modules. Those 32 modules I described are our candidate modules for December. We're announcing them here in October. In November, we're going to confirm. We're going to come up with our confirmed module list. So you should, if you are interested in participating in a December module, you should go buy tokens. And then we will, like this coming week, we will be sending you a registration form to be able to select your modules so that in November we can choose our confirmed modules. And then of course they'll blast off there in December. And then of course in November, at the same time we announce the confirmed modules for December, we'll also announce the candidate modules for January, right? And so then in December, when the first modules begin, we'll be announcing the confirmed modules for January, and we'll be announcing the candidates for February. So you see how this cycle is going to be working, right? Now, I would also emphasize space tokens, I think, will make really awesome Christmas presents. It is very possible to gift a token. All you have to remember, as I say, tokens are like totally digital currency. So all you have to do is buy a token and then just send us an email telling us to whom we should credit that token, right? So we'll need a name and email. We'll need their email so that we can reach out to them and send them a thing, right? Send them a selection form so that they can choose their modules. So you just have to get in touch with us, give us the name and email of the person. I would recommend that you tell them so that they don't receive an email from us out of nowhere and think it's spam. So just a suggestion. Surprises are fun. And we can kind of try to coordinate a surprise, but anyway, you'll want to let people know. Anyway, okay. So that is, they totally fit in Stocking Sparrow. You're absolutely right. So, that is how the space program is going to work. Kind of fun, right? I know the registration system is kind of complicated with the 2 phases and stuff, but you see how we've designed this in order to try to make it as student driven as possible. Again, we're not trying to channel you through a particular program. We just want to give you all the options, let you choose, and then do whichever modules students want to take, right? It's going to be all about meeting student desires. And by the way, on that selection form I'm going to be sending to people, we're also going to have a suggestions box for future modules that you want. Is there anything else you'd like us to offer? Let us know, and we'll look that up. Okay, I've gone ridiculously over time to probably nobody's surprise, but let me talk. So first, starting 15 to 20 minutes ago, is Sparrow's creative writing session. We're going to catch up is what's going to happen. You'll see. But anyway, yeah. So this is what's happening. So we're gonna transition in just a couple minutes to Sparrow's creative writing session. Then we're gonna do anime. We're doing fairy tales, hieroglyphics, and English sonnets. All 5 of these space capsules that you're going to be able to see today are previews of actual modules that we have on our candidate list for December. Okay, so very good. Quick questions that folks have. I've been trying to keep up with comments and questions as I've gone along, and I haven't seen anything kind of saved up. But if you have any quick questions, I can try to I'm already late, so, I might as well. So again, quick questions that I can help with as I go. In for a penny, in for a pound. I agree. That's exactly it. Yeah. As far as the lateness is concerned. Anything I can clarify or clear up? Again, I recommend you look at the Space website. You can see full descriptions of all of our modules. You can see, it's got the tuition chart there. It's got the links to purchase your tokens to get, stuff started up. Yeah. Yeah, good. So, Carrie, right now we don't have scholarship programs for the space program. Yeah, that's a little harder for space. Yeah, we don't have anything right now. It is possible that we might build something like that in the future, but not at the moment. Not at the moment. Now, for all of Signum, we do have our work study program within our master's degree and certificate program. So for our master's degree and certificate program, we do have the opportunity for folks to participate in our work study program, where you can work as Signum staff in exchange for courses, basically in place of tuition, and we've had a number of students do their whole MA program for either nothing or practically nothing. So the URL again for space, Kira, is signumuniversity.org/space. That is what you can find and where you can find it. All right. Tomas is wondering, how adult do you need to be? Not very. Not very. It's sort of for grown-ups. But yeah. Tomas, I will admit to you, you're talking about your daughter being interested in Kelly's anime class. Yeah. Not going to lie, I have some members of my household who are also going to be interested. I have no problems with this. I'm thinking there are going to be some space modules on the wish lists of my own children as well, I suspect. Yeah. Anyway, so that's, I don't see any problem with that. Again, this is not a degree program. There aren't prerequisites for it. I'd be a little uncomfortable with like a 7-year-old, in these classes. But I do think that, mature teenagers will do fine, I think, in our space modules. Okay. And yes, but if you do have minors, we do need, it's important for them to be supervised by their adults, by their adult supervisors. That's an important thing. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's it. That's all.